Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. My name is Sub-Zero Exabyte and today we are going to be playing some more Roblox, but today will be a little different. I am actually telling the story of John Doe, the day he became one of the greatest evil people in all of Roblox. It started way back years and years ago when Roblox was first created. It was a naturally sunny day and John Doe was waking up in his house. This was way before he became the elusive John Doe. He owned a house and John he woke up ready for a good day. John Doe used to have his very own house. It was a very nice place that he always kept tidy and spent a lot of money on to ensure it was great. His house was always very big and warm and comfortable, but he was kind of lonely. There was no one for him to share it with. Some mornings he would go out to high school and go for a dip or a dive because it was such a nice day, and then would eat breakfast and get dressed for another day of work. He loved swimming, but he wanted to share the pool with someone else. That would be so much more fun. A family would be amazing. He even had his own trampoline to have fun on and bounce around with people. He could invite people over all the time and have so much fun bouncing around, but the problem was that John Doe didn't have many friends. You see, guys, they weren't that playful in those times because, in case you didn't know, John Doe was one of the first ever people in Roblox, which means that there were basically no other players anywhere. John Doe just wanted someone to dance with and have fun with all around the town. He hoped eventually he would find someone. He decided it was time to go out. It was a lovely day in the Roblox world, and the town was booming with not so much life. The sun was so bright today and the weather was so warm. It felt like the perfect day in the world. All was peaceful and nothing could go wrong to ruin John Doe's lonely day. He decided to go into the shop and buy some new sunglasses to help him block out the sun. He couldn't wait to go into his workplace and show all of his students his nifty cool glasses and see if they all thought he was really cool. It was now time for John Doe to head to his workplace. John actually worked at the school as teacher, and he taught children from all around the game about some really cool Roblox computer science, but unfortunately, because of the lack of players, his classes were always empty and not many people would ever attend them. He would always walk or drive to work and investigate the classes to see if anyone would turn up to learn about how to use computers in all sorts of ways. John Doe was amazing at using computers and was a very clever man. On a lovely sunny day, no one had turned up to class to learn. Perhaps it was because it was a really sunny day and everyone was outside playing around in the water and on the beach and whatnot. John Doe was very sad that he couldn't teach or do his job, so decided to cancel the class and leave school as it appeared like no one was going to come today. John Doe was very sad and depressed by this and decided that he should go and do something to take his mind of it. He decided he was going to hop into a car so that he could go much faster and get around and do stuff really cool. I think that he wanted to take his mind of the loneliness. John Doe wanted to visit the gym as he always does, because going to the gym and running and exercising with weights always really helped him to take his mind of the loneliness of the world. The whole town was so bright and colorful and amazing and had so much to. He just wanted to share it with someone who would appreciate it as much as he did. Where would he find someone like that? First up was the running machine, where he chugged along for a few minutes. If you have ever been on a treadmill or a running machine, you know that they move backwards and you have to run along, and it simulates you running along. It is a really clever device and it helps with cardio and other forms of exercise. I would much rather just go for a run, but I guess that John Doe liked the idea of using the running machine to train. He was going to leave this boring life behind. Weightlifting was next. John Doe was great at lifting weights, and now he was all pumped and ready to go and spend the night dancing and having lots of fun. He decided that he was going to use his computer science ways to somehow figure out some really cool hacks of some sort. Nothing would stop him. He was going to focus his mind and try to put all of his talents and skills to use. First, he wanted to go and dance at the club and enjoy the night. He could start hacking tomorrow, and it wasn't like anything was going to happen to stop him tonight, like a random encounter with a person. Now John Doe was in his car and heading to the club to start all of his dancing to the really funky music. Dancing was one of his favorite things to do, and he couldn't wait to get started. It's really late now in the day and he spent most of the training and going to school, so now he wanted to spend his evening in the club. Before entering the club, he had to park, of course. Unfortunately, John Doe wasn't the best driver in the world despite how smart he was. It took him forever to park at the end. Sometimes his driving was a little bit disastrous and all over the place sometimes. He couldn't wait to dance as he entered the club and prepared to dance and use his best moves. He was going to boogie and dab like there was no tomorrow. All of a sudden John Doe noticed there was someone else dancing in the club, another player in Roblox. How could this be? John Doe thought he was all alone in this world, and all of a sudden a girl player looking somewhat like him was dancing in front of him. This was amazing. Perhaps he could go over and introduce himself to her. She seemed really excited, and now John Doe was as well. John Doe introduced himself to the girl and she revealed her name to be Jane. She was a new player in Roblox and just got into town. Dancing was one of her favorite things, and so she came straight to the club to start dabbing and boogieing and having fun. John Doe took to her straight away and they danced for ages, almost all night. It was amazing and he had such a good time. He decided it was time to ask a question. Because he liked her so much, he plucked up the courage to ask her for a date. They went upstairs to start their date and have a great time. They wanted to talk and get to know each other. John Doe told Jane that all this time he has been the only one in town and has no friends to talk to and has been looking for someone for the longest time. Jane tells John that she is exactly the same but from another town where there is no other players. She traveled here to find someone. She is rather shy, but John really likes her. He thinks that what they have could blossom into an amazing relationship for sure. John suggests that they should go for a drive now that they have eaten a little bit of food. Jane says the food was very tasty and then they both run to outside the club. They have both had an amazing night, but John wants to surprise Jane by bringing her to see a movie, so he went to grab his car and Jane waited at the door for him. He returned with his car and provided her a seat. Jane waited patiently at the door of the club as John had trouble trying to find a car that actually had 2 seats. He needed a car that would fit them both, of course, so what was he to do? He was sure that one of these cars would be able to hold 2 passengers. Luckily he was able to create cars out of thin air because he had some really cool hacking knowledge. This really impressed Jane and she thought that Joe was so cool and funny. This was an amazing start to a wonderful relationship and a wonderful life together. Perhaps he managed to find the right car with 2 seats and it was blue. Now he could take it over to Jane at the club and impress her by driving her to the cinema next door. She hopped into the car and they set off. When they reached the cinema, John Doe offered to buy both tickets to see the movie because he had lots of money. Because there aren't many players in existence in Roblox yet, he actually had almost all of the money in the town, which is pretty funny. They walk into the cinema screening room and see that Nyan Cat is playing. This was actually the premiere of Nyan Cat the movie and the first time it was ever played in Roblox. What an amazing coincidence, and how cool is it that these two also saw the same Nyan Cat film that I see when I go to that cinema sometimes. Sitting down, the pair were now safely watching the film after a great meal in the club and lots of dancing. They were rather tired but having lots of fun as they watched the rest of Move. Nyan Cat was one of Jane's favorite things ever and she spoke to John Doe about it for hours as they watched the film. They had so much fun that it was unreal. They had a great date in the cinema and both felt really special about where the relationship was heading. John Doe couldn't believe this. Just yesterday he was about to become evil and stop playing by the rules, but with this girl, he can be happy again. Jane expressed what an amazing film that WS, and John thanks her for coming. They head back to the car and prepared to get into it to go home, but John actually wanted to do something first before they headed back home. He offers Jane another lift in his car to go to a special house that wants to buy Jane. She is stunned and amazed that he would offer to buy her a home in the town so that she could stay here. John decided to buy the house for Jane. They got out of the car and Jane was so excited that she ran straight up to it and then thanked John so much for buying it for her. He said it is no problem because he has plenty of money and because there isn't any other players really in the game. No one else needs the house. They walk around the downstairs of the house, which was really cool and well decorated. Almost as good as John Doe's house, which is really expensive. Jane can't wait to decorate the place how she wants to. She loves it so much as there are so many different rooms and it is so fancy. She wanders around and John Doe takes her for a bit of a tour around all of the rooms. They could have a family here, a future. Everything could be perfect, thought John Doe as he walked around the rooms showing her all the different things there was to do. There was even a room for a baby if they even decided to expand their family and start to become really happy. John was overcome with loving feelings towards Jane. This is a really great story so far. I am really enjoying all of this cool detail. The bedrooms are really big and look so comfortable. As they walked up the stairs and investigated, More and more visions of a happy future filled both of their heads. John Doe was so excited to not be alone again, and Jane was so happy that she had finally found someone to be with and look after her. They were ready to have a bunch more fun, and Jane told John that she loved the house so much again. They decided to hop back in the car and head to John's to see what it is like before they head to bed. Jane agreed and they headed to the car. Sub didn't realize that he has done so much today that he's rather tired. Before they get to the car, John actually decides to go night dipping in the water and have a bunch of fun. He calls Jane over and asks her to come onto the slide and try it out. It's so much fun, and they both climb up and have a laugh, splashing around in the cool water on that warm summer's night. John and Jane then swam to an island in the middle of the water, and John told her to wait for him as he was going to go and grab a boat for them to ride around on in the water and have a great time on. The boat was very fast and one of John Doe's favorite things to play on when he was around the beach and the weather. Jane was having so much fun and felt so cool as they sped through the water and around the island. Jane was so happy, but it was starting to get so late that John suggested they should really be heading back to his house to get some well-needed sleep, and they could come and swim again tomorrow and then head to the school and he would show her all about where he works. They walked into the house owned by John Doe. It was huge and much like earlier was so clean. Definitely leave a like for finding out what John Doe's house looked like and the fact that I was able to discover the origin story of the mysterious and evil John Doe. I think that it was really impressive that he told me this, but the story is so sad. I feel really bad for him with what is about to happen the next day. From then Jane checked out Sub's house and then they headed upstairs to get ready to get into bed and go to sleep. What a great story this is, honestly. Who would ever think the origins of John Doe would be this interesting and ultimately, probably very sad as well. After such an amazing day and night, they decided to lie down in bed and get some very well needed rest before they start to have some more fun tomorrow. John claims that he is going to show Jan where he works and teach her all about computer science and some really cool stuff. She says she will be really excited to do all of it, but for now she wishes him sweet dreams, and they both fall asleep on the really comfy bed. They hopped in the car the next day and began chatting some more. You tell Jane more about your job and the people that you have met and the things he has done. He mentions that he isn't the best at driving, to be honest, as he gets rather nervous on the road. All of a sudden, as John Doe is driving along, he notices some sort of unusual stone thing in the road which forces him to swerve. He is so nervous because Jane is in the car that he tried to impress her by not swerving and crashing. And the car crashes instantly. John Doe woke up in the hospital a few weeks later. He had suffered quite a few injuries and hurt himself very bad. He didn't know what was going on and could barely remember a thing that happened to him after his amazing night with Jane. Where was Jane? Where was she at the moment? He noticed that his injuries had now more or less healed, so perhaps the crash wasn't as bad as he thought. He gets up out of his bar and then walks to the door to try and find a doctor to ask where Jane might be and what happened to his car. The doctor mentioned to John Doe that he was in a serious car crash and the car went flying into the river and sunk to the bottom of the water. John Doe was flung out of the car and through the windscreen. He is amazed to find this out and asks if Jane is okay. The doctor asks who Jane is. John Doe explains that Jane was the girl in the passenger seat of the car with him. He says that when they found you, you were all on your own, and so John comes to the conclusion that Jane has disappeared and probably died. Distraught, he runs through the hospital crying. He is destroyed internally and now all he can think of is getting revenge on Roblox, the game, and every player who plays it in future because he lost Jane. He was finally in love and finally found someone he'd be together with. Perhaps if he hacks the game he can get her back and find where she has gone. One way or another he vowed to find her again using all of his hacking abilities. From this moment on, John Doe became evil. The day went so badly and so much went wrong that Hugh couldn't cope anymore and decided that he would get his revenge. What a horrible day this had been for John Doe. No doubt you guys can realize now exactly why he turned to hacking and decided to become the man that he did in the end. It was all over a girl and his love and desperation to never be alone again. Now he is always alone. How sad. John Doe ran outside of the hospital and into the streets to go learn how to hack the game and steal people's accounts to keep them away from the gamer. He really doesn't want anyone to come near the game unless it is his one and only love. From now on he is John Doe. mysterious and evil hacker of Roblox. He told me all of this over dinner one time, which is pretty cool. Thank you guys so much for watching this video today. We had a lot of fun, and I will see you guys in the next video.